for coming. This is our second season of Third Thursday. And we have a very special guest today, Merrill Sparks. Can you not hear me? Can you hear me now? Excellent. You can. Good. This is a Third Thursday program. We'll have several more. We'll have one more this fall. That's on October 16th, and we had a flyer about that. That will be Dr. Jerry Croft, the University of Iowa Professor of International Programs, and Lanny Haldy, Director of the Amana Museums, and they're going to discuss the history, culture, and economics of the Amana colony. So if you're interested, please come back for that. You can sign up online or talk to anyone at a public service desk. And then we will have a couple more sessions next spring. We're doing a special one for a service or a series of programs we're doing at the library called Think in Lincoln. And a University of Iowa professor, Leslie Schwalm, will be speaking on emancipating Iowa, Lincoln's proclamation and black freedom in the upper Midwest. Then in April, we'll be doing a session on patient safety, and the patient's librarian from the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics will come and lead that. And then we'll be doing one in May on railroad history. So that's our series. And then John Hyatt, who is in the audience, will be doing a session way off in May for summer reading. For all of you readers, you'll be interested in that one. And while I'm speaking about John, let me introduce the committee members for our 55 plus or Third Thursday group. Carol Ogston, who's in the back, library staff person. I am also on the committee, as is John Hyatt, right there. And sitting next to John Hyatt is one of our community members, Sujit Dhar. Another community member who's on the committee is Charity Rowley, right up here. And we have a couple other members who weren't able to make it today. And this is a really good group. It's made up of library staff and then the community. And we try and have programs that we think are of interest to people who are 55 or older, or actually they interest people who are 55 or younger too. But this is our programming initiative for that area. As I said before, today's guest, performer, entertainer, poet, author is Merrill Sparks. And Merrill is going to do a couple of things today. He's going to entertain us at the piano, but he's also going to tell us some things about his life and about a special musical that he's written. And I think you wanted to say some things first before we start our interview?
Yes.
Okay?
Is this on now?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just very pleased and feel honored to be asked for here. And Florence has helped me get so many of the stuff that I had in my apartment out. But it also tells me something. These two pictures, this is a song that my mother wrote when she was 18, about 1900. And she had words to it, but they weren't her words. She'd done something. So years later on, I decided I'd write words to that melody. And I did, and sent it to Luciano Pavarotti and Kirti Kanoa, and I have letters from him here. Her name was Ollie Hickman. Then my sister, also about 18 or 19, who had just given birth to my niece, who's about my age, she was tubercular. And here in Oakdale, she wrote words and music to this song, Alone with My Memories. So that's the past. Then, oh yes, later on, then this is, I was in World War II. I landed at Normandy Beach after the first invasion, and while I'm up in the orchard, some of us were pulled out and sent to Italy, flown to Italy, because a unit had been wiped out there. So suddenly I'm in Italy, and within just hours, I'm on the front line in Italy with the 1st Armored Infantry Division. And these, I don't know where they came from exactly. I took this picture as the war was ending. We were entering, we rode on half tracks. And we were entering Como, which is on the Swiss border in northern Italy. And then this one is before, when we're in a stalemate on the mountains south of Bologna and others there. And it shows it's a bombed out house. All the roof is gone, but 3 of us soldiers, 3 from the same squad. I'm in the middle writing a letter, and 2 of my buddies on either side are there. I don't know who took that picture. Anyway, with the war over, I came back to California. I had 2 years before at Compton, and enrolled and was a student at USC. And for 2 years there, and both there I wrote music for 2 musicals. And but I'd all been writing poetry for a long time. And Paul Ingle had the Poets Writers workshop here, and I wrote him, and he said, come on. So I came up here and was here about 2.5 years working on my master's. And there, while there, also, I met in Iowa City. This is back, I'm 1950 I left, so about 1948. Yes, I graduated from SC in 48. And so in that time, Robert Frost came to read here, and there was a picture taken of him, and took it to me when I went to California, and someone said, why don't you send it to him and get him to sign it, which I did. So it's here and it's signed. Then in California, after I went BA in Southern California, USC, 2.5 years here on my master's, and then I went to Columbia in New York, and flew back to California to attend the wedding of my sister's daughter, who's about the same age I am. I'm a menopause kid, and surprise! I recommend it to everybody. My folks were like buddies, and I can give you a good example for instance, on one. When I was getting my BA from USC, my parents who lived in Southwest Iowa. I'm from Southwest Iowa to begin with, Mount Etna, which is just north of Corning. The folks came out. They knew I was going to be drafted into the Army, or I enlisted instead. But anyway, they came out, and they came out for the graduation from University of Southern Cal. And my brother-in-law and my father were seated in the little area where another student and I lived. And my brother-in-law turned to my father and he says, well, what you going to do? He's going to go to school. He's applied to University of Iowa. And my brother-in-law said, when's he going to quit going to school and go out and get a job? And this I treasure. My father looked at him very cool. He says, he can go just as long as he wants to. Thank you. That's support. Anyway, I won't continue long.
And we'll have an opportunity for people to come up afterwards
Right.
and look at these things, because
So-
they really are fascinating. And it looks like we have someone in our audience who's making a documentary about Merrill, so there'll be more to see. And I think you're doing that for
the senior center.
for the senior center. So all of us will be part of Merrill's documentary of his life.
Well, thank you so much. And before we do music, I wanted to do 3 poems from published poems that were there. And the first I love, because I don't know whether you remember Edith Sitwell or not. She wrote and she read poems in a very different voice, up and down like this. So this is, I said, when I sent it to the publisher, I said, please read this aloud, a la early Dame Edith, as in Facade. That was the name of the book, Facade. Rising and falling inflections, 4 exaggerated beats to the line. So this is it. It's for Edith Sitwell in the manner of Facade. It's called On the Ferris Wheel. Oh, up we go on the Ferris wheel, unwinding ourselves on the canting wheel to cast a calliope string of sight into the carnival world of night. See the lines of fidgety light bulbs glow in the eyes of the flooding human flow, and see the platformed barker begin at the 3-ring circus to pack them in. Then down at the sideshow, look your fill as the girls in their bras and lace panties chill in the evening air of St. Louis blues as they kick their legs high in their high-heeled shoes. And there in the monster tent, see the slink from the brute who is tagged as the missing link, and the pygmies deformed, the sea serpent dead, and the lamb that was born with a human head. There's a game of chance. Come on, try your luck. All you have to do is shoot down the duck. If you knock the birdie off the board, a plastered Madonna is your reward. And look at the pen that is slimy with mud. See a man wring a chicken's neck, then drink the blood. And behold the God in his loin-clothed frame, who swells his great chest and burns in his flame. The snake pit is packed, and the snake pit is deep, and the boa constrictor will squirm in your sleep. The rattler will coil, the python will thrive on the innocent pig he swallowed alive. Oh, up we go on the Ferris wheel to shake off the earth and the corset spiel that is squeezing our heart in a burial gown. Up, up for a space before we start down. Thank you. Thank you. Well, maybe.
Why don't we learn a little bit about your early life, and so we have some time for you to play. Will that work? And then we can do some poems at the end?
Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever. Where do I begin?
Well, tell us where you grew up. I thought you grew up in Corning. But
I grew up in a little town, Mount Etna, just about 10, 11 miles north of Mount Etna, of Corning. Jean was there earlier this summer, taking photos and all that stuff. She's doing a thing. Anyway, I came from a family, as I said, being a menopause child, I recommend it for everybody because you don't get the things that they learned on the kids before, you know. When they were glad to have me and treated me very much like a special grandson or something. I don't know. Wonderful. Anyway, they encouraged, my mother had studied piano and she sang and played and wrote, and my half-sister also played piano and composed, and for years she was a church organist in California.
So did you have formal music instruction?
Not really, no, because back in the early 30s, everyone was poor, almost everyone. And it was a real trial to do it. You know, so my brother got music lessons because he drove the music teacher 11 miles to Corning, the county seat, because then for that he got not paid, but he got free music, piano lessons. So, but when it came, we were too poor, but Mom had been given the house and with the two daughters, and she had studied music, and so she taught me how to read music.
So you had a piano in your home?
Yeah, right. And well, as I said, I don't know which way we go from there.
Well, when did you begin writing music?
Probably about 12, somewhere there. I remember I wrote something about when Wiley Post and Will Rogers were killed in a plane crash, I think in Alaska. I think it was 1935, so I would have been 12 then.
So did you perform it for anyone?
No, and I don't even know that I remember it now. I just remember the title was Anything Can Happen. And, but anyway, I got encouragement from a family that was marvelous, and as I said, they were with me all the way. Be a menopause kid if you can.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about some interesting places you've lived and some people you've performed for, and then we'll talk about your musical that's been performed recently.
Well, in service, even after the war ended, my 1st Armored Infantry Division went to Germany. And soon, the war had just ended. And so they decided to choose a few people to give instructions to the soldiers in there. So I was one of those, and another soldier, Pierre Conhagen, he lived all but 1 year of his life in France. We were sent first to go to Cité Universitaire in Paris for a course in teaching techniques, but I'd already taught 1 year. And
Piano techniques? What kind of techniques?
Yeah, and other things too,
Okay.
yeah. And then later on, the State Department granted the people in Europe training within a civilian agency, TWCA. And it was an agreement they reached with France, where certain people were chosen, soldiers were chosen to go to school in France. And I and this other person, Pierre, who lived 22 of his 23 years in France, we were sent to the University of Besançon, and we were part of a State Department experiment, 2 out of how many 100,000 out of the division. But we received pay both from France and the United States, and given a ticket to go any place by rail or bus in France. And they had societies that performed things, sang or performed music for it. And that was a wonderful blessing. I met a German prisoner of war. The French, I'm very simpatico to France, of course, but the French were not too sympathetic toward their German prisoners when the war ended. They weren't in a hurry to send them home. And at this town of Besançon, it's in eastern France, and it was also where Victor Hugo lived early on. And it was a nice town. Where were we? Meeting Conrad, yes. Yes, the German prisoners of war. The French held a number of them, living in the same Cité Universitaire. That's where the French students lived. That's where I and this other American soldier lived. They lived in the same building. So I'd go to the lunch, and there'd be the German prisoners out there waiting to do work that the French had given to do. Even though the war was over, they were reluctant to send them back. Let's get some more. So anyway, this one German sat there, and he always smiled when we went by, and I started smiling back and saying hello. And turned out he spoke some Italian, and I spoke some Italian. And we became friends. And and another German who spoke English as well. The two of them would come down to my room in the Cité Universitaire, where the French students lived. And I worked on translating a book of thoughts of his, kind of a diary, from German to Italian to English. And anyway, and that was wonderful. Konrad Odenwald was his name, Konrad. Anyway, we became fast friends. So when I went back to Germany, I had a whole bunch of the German prisoners of war of the French would slip down to my room at night and slip messages under the door, because they weren't sure that the French had notified their parents in Germany that they were still alive. So anyway, it was marvelous. So we became fast friends, and that remained for all of our years. He's visited me, he and his wife and kids have visited me in southwest Iowa. It's been just a joy. Konrad Odenwald, Odenwald.
So shall we start?
Shall we start?
Yes, and talk about Icaria?
Okay. Icaria it's a musical that I wrote. I did the words and music and the songs from words and music and the play. The Icarians were a group of Frenchmen who wrote a book. Etienne Corbeil, and it was published, to trip to Icaria. So they decided they'd try a social experiment in the United States, and they bought land in Texas. But when they got to Texas, the land wasn't adjoining. So they went to New Orleans and waited a little bit, and then the Mormons were being shipped out of Nauvoo. So they waited to Nauvoo and waited, and then they sent scouts into Iowa and down my area, and decided they'd make their mission down just east of Corning, Iowa, about 3 miles. And there were about 100 of them then. And so it gets to, I grew up with the French influence at home. And so I involved into writing a musical on Icaria, and that's what we're talking about now. There were 3 love stories in it.
What was, Merrill, the time period of Icaria?
From about 1848 to 1898, somewhere about the longest-lived communist settlement in America. And in fact, one of them designed the state capitals, both here in Des Moines and the one in Illinois. And their Sundays were not spent going to church. They didn't have church services. They had discussions and musical things. And so then I took this as a basis for a musical. And I wrote 19 songs. And as Gene knows, they did kind of a synopsis of it, both in Cedar Rapids and here at the Towers, where I live. And it had only 10 songs, and a person narrated the story. Well, anyway, this is the first song I'm going to do for you. It's called I Guess We Never Learn. The men are seated at a long table in the dining room. There are just two levels of the house. There's no kitchens. They all ate in a communal thing. The women are seated at this, the men are seated at this table, and the women come in carrying rolling pins and all that, and they say to the men, "Oh, it's nice to have somebody slaving away in the kitchen, let's say, on a sweltering day. And while you're getting hot, talking lofty ideals, we're out here getting hot, getting meals. Oh, a woman's work is never done, never done, never done. Oh, a woman's work is never done, never done. Every morning we wake with the full day ahead, hungry mouths to be fed, mending clothes, baking bread, cleaning house, planting gardens, and making them thrive. It's a wonder we ever survive. Oh, a woman's work is never done, never done, never done. Oh, a woman's work is never done, never done." An old maid steps up and says, she turns to the table and she says, "I'd like to bring up a most delicate point. When we're making our babies, the work you men do is a quick howdy-do, and voila, you are through. But we women get stuck, if you'll pardon the pun, and it's nearly a year till we're done. Oh, a woman's work is never done, never done, never done. Oh, a woman's work is never done, never done." Well, as the colony went on, the real idealists still kept on, but a lot of people were influenced by what the Americans were doing. And so one of the young girls falls in love with a young boy from the county. And the young girl goes to the old maid, who has an important part in that song I just sang. And the girl asks her, "Well, what would you do? I like him and they don't want me to even see him." So The old maid sings this. It isn't very easy when you're not a bit attractive to look at life and watch it from the side. And especially when you're young and your glands are overactive and you have feelings that are hard to hide. Through all my years alone, I've never known romance, but I've not let that shrivel up my soul. But if I were in your shoes and had only half a chance, I'm not so sure now I'd accept my role. If I had a chance for love, how I'd run for it. If I had a chance for love, I'd stop the sun for it. For life lived for self is below one, and we're given these feelings to share. If we fail all too soon, we find no one is there. If I thought that I could fall, I would fall, I would. And if I had a chance at all, I'd give it all I could. And I'd fly like a skylark to his arms, almost kill to be willfully wild. If I had a chance for love, I'd take it, my child. And I'd fly like a skylark to his arms, almost kill to be willfully wild. If I had a chance for love, I'd take it, my child. Thank you. One more from the musical. Corning is the county seat of Adams County, and that was where the French, the Acadians had their colony. So I wrote a song for the couple that are getting together, going to be married. Corning in the morning will be fabulous and fair, because in Corning in the morning I will meet my sweetheart there. And should you see me looking dreamy as we come from some JP, you know just why I'm sorry-eyed. She will be my bride, my house satisfied I will be, as all Corning in the morning we'll see. Come on. Corning in the morning will be fabulous and fair, because in Corning in the morning I will meet my sweetheart there. And should you see me looking dreamy as we come from some JP, you'll know just why I'm starry-eyed. Oh, she will be my bride, my house satisfied. We will be as all Corning in the morning will see. Thank you. I'm having a little trouble with the keys here, so that's a little bit. But anyway, that happens when you're young and beautiful.
So have you performed that in Corning?
Oh, yes, yes. When it was first done, would you believe, 20 years ago, I was younger then too. And it got such publicity that it was reviewed by the Des Moines Register and also the Omaha World Herald very favorably. And because there were the 3 concurrent love stories, one was kind of touching too. The leader of the colony has a relationship with a younger girl, and he sings a song, "I'm Not Perfect." But anyway, that was, but it was very well accepted and reviewed. And then it was so popular, sold out those 3 nights, that they had to do it again in the summer. But that time it got a grant from the Iowa Humanities or something, and then it got a grant from the Illinois, and was done later that year in Nauvoo. So, and then just this year here, tell me. Oh, well, they did a version at the pardon?
Concert version.
Yeah, concert, where they didn't do the script. They just did 10 of the 19 songs, and the narrator told the story. There were 3 conflicts, and it was done in Cedar Rapids in June, and then little.
At the Iowa Arts Festival? It was.
Yeah, at the Iowa Arts Center here at the. And it was just busy. Everyone was there. It was fantastic.
So did you perform then?
No. They had marvelous person, Louis DeGrazia's daughter-in-law, who sung on Broadway. She had one of the main leads, and they were all just did it very well.
So does the community of Vicaria, is there anything remaining there?
Nothing except the dining hall. And it's been a public, a private home, for some time. And then the schoolhouse that they had, they moved away and to Corning. But then when all this publicity, and thank God my play was helpful in that design, they moved the school back, and now they're reconstructing the Vicaria. Gene was there just.
They have a whole Icarian society, and they're raising money for it.
I did a little research for this, and it's the National Icarian Heritage Society, and
Right.
there's lots and lots, it looks like, to preserve it. So maybe someday you'll be able to have it performed there. That would be.
Well, yes. Well, it was done. It was done. Yeah. Again, I don't know. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez? What do you want? Qu'est-ce que vous voulez écouter? What do you want to hear?
You mentioned, I guess you never learned, I said, not from the
Oh, no.
play.
Oh,
One of your songs, but one of your songs.
okay, I guess we never learned. Do you know it? Well, I guess we never learned. No, we never, ever learned. We go on the same old way, hurting those we love each day. So I broke your heart again, and now we are apart again. And I don't know where to turn. I guess we never learned. There was a time not long ago, you shared my world and made it glow. You warmed my nights, but I was oh too cruel. I never had a tactful touch. The things I did pained you too much. I don't blame you for leaving such a fool. Choir, come on. Oh, I guess we never learn. No, we never ever learn. We go on the same old way, hurting those we love each day. So I broke your heart again, and now we are apart again. And I don't know where to turn. I guess we never learn. Thank you. What's the other song that I do very much from that time?
Just a second, Merrill, I have a question for you. Do you play piano much now?
Only at during the noontime when I've eaten my meal at the senior center.
So those lucky people get to hear you, is it every day?
Every day, oh, no, almost every day. Yeah, on 5 of 7 days a week.
Can you play I'm Not Perfect?
I'm not perfect. This is what the man who has been having an affair with this young girl, she becomes pregnant and she dies during the thing. But he's singing this to his wife. I'm not perfect, and everyone knows I've got a lot of failings, and everyone shows. If you try to count them, the list would be too long. And if I'm good at anything, I'm good at going wrong. Sometimes I wonder, what is it I am? Just a lusting lion or your little lamb? But still, understand me. Forgive me no matter what I'll do. For though I'm not so perfect, and no one is perfect, still I know I'm perfectly perfect for you. I haven't done. If you try to count them, the list would be too long. And if I'm good at anything, I'm good at going wrong. Sometimes I wonder, what is it I am? Just a lusting lion or your little lamb? How grand you understand me, no matter what I do. Though I know I'm not perfect, and nobody's perfect, still I know I'm perfectly perfect for you. Thank you. You've been very kind. Come on. Well,
Tell them what the ranger said about it.
oh, well, I have my songs arranged by Lou Halme in Hollywood, he arranged for many big bands, and he's dead now, but he did all the work for making the piano arrangements for my songs. And then this one is not in the play. It was just the one I sent him, and he did it and arranged it, and then he said he was in tears all the time. And he said, even though I've done thousands of songs, none has ever affected me like this one. So I'll try Always Alone. We'll see. Always alone, always alone. Since you have left, I am all on my own. People who see only me. Don't let me always be always alone. I walk always with myself, I talk always with myself. I mock me and tell myself life is swell, all is well. I eat always by myself, I weep always by myself. I sleep always by myself, and much more. And what for? Always alone, always alone. Where is that once shining world that has flown? Come back and say you're here to stay. Don't let me always be always alone. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you. Thank you. Well, A Heart of Gold is another tragedy in my life. There have been so many tragedies, but there's lots of good, more good. I wrote Heart of Gold, and I took it to, I was playing at the Moulin Rouge in Los Angeles then. Incidentally, that just might be a short little thing.
That's fine.
I'd gone to California to attend the wedding of my niece, who's like my sister. She and I are about the same age.
So what time period was this? Do you remember?
1950, something like that, yeah. And while I'm in California for her wedding, I knew Hollywood.
Well, who doesn't? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I took a job as a soda jerk
Oh,
in the Lee drugstore on Hollywood and Highland. And the fry cook was a Lebanese man, and I'd go over to his place, and he and I'd horse around on the piano. And his wife said, "It's silly you're working down there for 35 cents an hour. You should be playing piano." And that really started my lifelong career. About 4 or 5 years ago, I got my 50-year pin from the Hollywood Musicians Union, Local 47. But anyway, he kept, so I'd go over to the Lebanese man's house, and we'd horse around on the piano. And his wife said, "It's silly you're working down there for that. You should be getting more." So she started looking through the want ads, and there was a piano player for Club Lido, downtown Los Angeles on Hill Street. And went down, I got it. I had a nice grand piano on a little platform, but the customers were people you wouldn't want to see your children with too much. They were busy hustling. The girls and the men were very willing to. So I got the job, and I think I got only $10 a night. But I had a little cereal bowl, those old thick cereal bowls, for my tip. And the men and the women would come up and put in money. The men to impress some woman, and the woman wanted because she wanted some man and she needed some. Anyway, I never knew that type of person, but it was wonderful. I was very successful there. Anyway, and people used to visit from other places in Los Angeles, Hollywood and others, to come down to see how the other half lives. That was on Hill Street, right downtown LA. So anyway, after I'm there, more than a year, this couple comes in. She's a very sharply dressed woman in nice red dress, and her man was very nicely dressed too. They were Jewish, and they came and took a seat at the piano, at the regular bar, and listened. So I take my break by, and, hello, can we buy you a drink? Yeah, I do. I drink Black Russians. So they said, well, we own the Moulin Rouge, and we'd love to have you come to work for us. My life changed. That changed. Yes, it was. It was so simple. And I went there, and I was their star performer for 4 years, and got very nice write-ups in the papers. And so then I didn't have to worry. I became a Hollywood Musicians Union and played in dinner houses and things. It was very nice. You never know. Anyway, while I'm in that thing, I wrote a song. It's not the greatest maybe, but it was very commercial. And a publisher took it, and he wanted, do you remember K-Star? Yeah. Well, anyway, the publisher had her in mind for it. So they had me, I was playing at a dinner house, but they had me on the alert all the time, because when she's back, we're going out to her place. So I went out there and to her home, and there were all these people. I stepped in, and they were from the record companies, from publicities and all this. It was full. And I knew it was the wrong vibration. They'd evidently been quarreling or something. But anyway, the publisher had thought K-Star could do it, and I thought so too. But anyway, A Heart of Gold. A heart of gold is what I'm after, to have and hold until I die. A love that's true, a little laughter, and someone who won't make me cry. I want to be a funny kind and always keep a sunny mind, even when the thunder starts to roll. For I believe you get much more when you give people credit for some good down deep in their soul. And I've been told, when you stop loving, your heart turns cold like a winter night. But the world grows bright, and you make it heaven when you unfold a heart of gold. And I don't remember all there's a counter melody in it, but I know they had a heart of gold, a heart that has to give away is what I'm after, some love to someone every day. Anyway, I did it, and so later, Kay was busy in the kitchen or something with all these people. I tell her there had been bad vibrations. So she offered me some drinks, and said, well, let's hear it. And so I played Heart of Gold. And then I said, well, the publisher and the record people were going to have you do the main melody. And then a group behind you would do, "A heart that has to give away." And Kay hit the piano. She says, "If I'm going to do this song, I'm going to do both ways, the way I did, side by side." Well, that queered the whole thing. I went to work, and then I had a call from my publisher at the club where I was working, and he said, "You've just seen the performance of the star before a hopeful songwriter," or something like that, you know. Anyway, it was never done, so that's life.
Any other, do you have any questions for Merrill or other requests? Yes?
I have a question. Your voice is magnificent. To
Yes,
me, it's
again.
better than Sinatra because as Sinatra grew older, he had to depend on delivery. You still have that voice, that vibrant voice. I Googled you.
Oh,
And
Google me some more.
Merrill, I Googled you too, so.
And it came up with that Superman story.
Oh, okay.
Yes, tell us about that.
Okay, the Superman. Well, yes. Oh dear, where do we begin? You know, the Superman was, he was from Iowa, the original one. He was from Iowa originally. And I was playing at Paul's Steakhouse, a very nice dinner house in Beverly Hills. And I went to work this time. They didn't have a very great piano. They're not as, it was, even though it was Beverly Hills, they just had a little thing with a few seats around here, but a big dining thing, and then more dining room over there. And I came to work, and I was told anyway that Superman was in the audience, and with his date. Oh, I know her name very well. She was a, who? Oh, I know so well, it's just gone. But anyway, she had been a girl with that woman in the East around New Jersey and New York that had, pardon? Yeah, Lenore Lemon, right, Lenore Lemon, it was she. And she had been one of the girls that that woman had for, available for people who came to New York or Jersey and wanted a companion. So anyway, pardon, now where were we? So I was playing at Paul's, this is little piano bar, and what was her name? Lenore. Lenore came in, and she was not, he sat at the bench at the piano, one of six benches all the time, and she was hustling the bar, going up and down, saying hello to all the lovely people. And anyway, oh dear. George Reeves, right. He was from Iowa. And where were we going with this story?
What happened that night?
Oh, yeah, right. Anyway, they were there, and while she was being friendly with nice people with money and around, you know. And then when I took my break, they were standing outdoors by the curb arguing. And later on, when I woke the next morning, I heard that he had killed himself right after that. He had gone home and taken off his clothes and came down the place holding a pistol or something and put it to his head. And maybe he didn't know it was loaded, but it was, and it killed him. And George Reeves, he was from Iowa. Say what?
And then 2020 got hold of it and invited you.
Yeah, 2020 got a hold of it, and that's this is, I was in Mount Etna then. A fellow did a story on George Reeves, a book, little small book. And they heard about it on ABC on 2020. And so they contacted me and flew me to New York and gave me 2 nights in a nice hotel and interviewed me for 2020, and that's another story. Oh, I wrote down, it's silly, this is very immodest, but I wrote down some of the, where did I put it? I guess maybe it's just as well. Among the people, here it is. You couldn't believe it, little fellow from a poor family in southwest Iowa. And I got to meet all these people: Sarah Vaughan, Meredith Wilson, Freddie Martin, Jeanette MacDonald, Jack Bailey of Queen for a Day, Jean Raymond. Stella Roman was a good friend. She sang opera. And she had fabulous people at her house. In fact, that is where she lived on Sunset Boulevard in one of those penthouse things. She was a Metropolitan Opera soprano, born in Hungary, and studied in Italy and sung in Europe, and she sang at the Met too, Stella Roman. And she became a close friend of mine. But anyway, this one night too, the Queen Nazli of Egypt, she had been married to Fuad, King Fuad, and her one daughter, I knew both the daughters. One daughter invited me over to her house in Beverly Hills, in the hills, to see a picture that's painting someone had given of their father, King Farouk. Farouk was a son. But anyway, so I went out there, and that was very nice. But anyway, while I'm there this one time, I go to Stella, and Stella said, she was in the kitchen fixing something. She lived in a penthouse apartment, and she said, Merrill, take the door. So I was taking the door and greeting people, coming in, and I went back into, this is another room, went back in here, and there's this couple seated over here. And pretty soon the woman was tagging at my hello. Well, it was Jimmy Cagney and his wife, Willie. and she said, Mrs. Cagney said, tell us, where are you from? I said, I'm from Iowa. She said, I don't believe it. She said, I was born in Fairfield and grew up in Des Moines. So, and she became Mrs. James Cagney. And for years after that, then, it was crazy. I hoped I could find the picture. I'm reading at Laguna at the Art Museum, some translations I made of another poet. And they're on the front row with also a brother and his sister Jean, who used to be on the big program in the morning for women. Not Queen for a Day, no. Queen for a Day was Jack Bailey. And Jack Bailey was very, very nice. When my folks came out from Iowa and we went to see them, when I told him, and he told him to tell him to come backstage. So I got to go backstage. And then, more than that, he sent something over to the apartment where I lived for my mother and father and me. I think it was something to drink, I'm not sure. But it was nice. Anyway, these are just some of the people. Lawrence Melchior, Paul Ingle, Robert Lowell, Robert Penn Warren. And here in Iowa City, Robert Lowell, you know the poet? Yeah, well, he was a great friend, and Paul Ingle was too. But I was going to drive a woman back to Massachusetts, and he said, well, Robert Lowell said, why don't you go to Washington and say hello to Ezra Pound? So I did. I went, hello, and after went to the hospital. He was in St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. They're saved instead of being killed for treason. He had made uncomplimentary broadcasts about the United States. And so but enough intellectuals said, let him live, So he was there, and he was wonderful. I had to go through all this screening, and when finally I got to the elevator, stepped off the elevator, he was there. He says, you're here at last. So then we went to a little corner and talked. And then when I'm here on Lucas Lucas Street? Is it Lucas right here? Yeah, I was living there. I got a nice little note from Ezra Pound saying, Sparks, to prevent your death in the desert, get in contact with these people. So he got me in on a round-robin group of poets from the United States, the West Indies, and it was wonderful. And then we sent our poems around to those people, and they made comments when it came back. And I was I think it's 331 Locust, I'm not sure. Right, cattywampus across from St. Pat's Church. Well, who else? Oh, there's just lots. Walter Winchell, oh, that man. Rudolph Nureyev, the ballet dancer. Cheryl Milnes, who's the opera singer, who's also Iowan. Christopher Isherwood and Gerald Hurd. And this was nice. I was being honored someplace, something I'd done with Vernon Duke. And it was a white tie and tail affairs. It's somewhere here. And it was in Beverly Hills. And for the evening, Claire Booth Luce and Bishop Fulton Sheen were the honored speakers, and I got to know them. And then Edmund Goulding, a marvelous director, used to come and sit at he came in with his sister. He's English, but he did a marvelous thing called, he wrote a song called Mamselle, a small cafe, Mamselle. You remember it? Well, anyway, that's Mamselle. And Edmund Goulding had written that. Then another place, Gene Crane and Tex Beneke, oh God. And this was fun. Then a publisher had given me, no, that's something else. A girl, well, I'll skip it.
Well, Merrill, I think we're about out of time, so that's a perfect ending to a lovely interlude.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
I'll just finish it off. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, like me. Thank you. Thank you very much. You've been wonderful.